Good evening and thank you for tuning in for the latest at this hour from Korea and beyond. I'm Daniel Che coming to you live from Arirang Tower in Sewol-ho. We begin with more updates on the tragic Sewol-ho ferry sinking. The death toll now stands at 244. Most of the cabins of the ships have been searched, but 58 people remain unaccounted for, raising concerns that many relatives may never see their loved ones again. President Park Geun-hye visited the island on this Sunday to console those who have been in Jindo for weeks. Our Kwon Soa starts us off.
President Park Geun-hye visited Jindo on Saturday afternoon, her second trip to the island after the tragic sinking of the Sewol-ho ferry nearly 3 weeks ago. The president spoke with about 50 relatives of the missing passengers at Paengmok-hang harbor near the accident site. President Park, who lost both of her parents at a young age, said she knows the sadness of losing a family member and that it hurts her to think of how the families must be feeling as they await word of their loved ones. She expressed her condolences to the families and said she feels responsible for the events after the accident occurred and emphasized that the nation's safety infrastructure has to be strengthened. When one relative demanded to know what she would do with regard to Lee Ju-young, the Oceans and Fisheries Minister who has been criticized for mishandling the incident, the president replied that anyone responsible for wrongdoing related to the incident and those who have committed a crime will be punished accordingly. President Park also reviewed the search and recovery operation from a barge at the accident site. She checked the National Forensic Service's progress on identifying recovered bodies, talked with divers engaged in the recovery operation, and urged everyone involved to do their utmost to move the process along. In related news, the first phase of the search and recovery operation is expected to be completed within the next few days. Most of the cabins on the ship have been searched, raising concerns that some of the bodies may already have been swept away. The president promised the search and recovery operation would continue until the families give their permission to pull up the wreckage. Kwon Soa, Arirang News.
The special team investigating the Sewol-ho ferry disaster is currently looking into summoning Yoo Byung-eun, the alleged owner of the ferry operator and the former chairman of Semo Group, before questioning the other members of his family. Prosecutors have summoned Yoo's relatives for questioning 2 times, and they have been summoned for a third and final time on May 8th. In related news, Chonghaejin Marine Chief Kim Han-sik, who is suspected of tax evasion, embezzlement, and secretly working with Yoo, was questioned for a second time on Saturday. Kim said after the session he has nothing more to say than that he is sorry. People from all over the world have been expressing their condolences over the Sewol-ho ferry tragedy, including students in the United States who had a special message for Korea in its time of mourning. Our Sun Jung-in has more.
Don't give up. We will always pray for your safe return. Even though we never met, we will always remember you. These colorful notes filled with messages of hope, love, and remembrance cover the message board in Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology in the U.S. state of Virginia. Students as well as teachers all took a moment to join the campaign and wrote messages to commemorate the deceased and missing passengers of the recent Korean ferry tragedy. The words seem to overcome the physical distance and language barrier in hopes that their meaning will reach the victims and their families. Students at Jefferson High also received yellow ribbons to put on their shirts or bags to show their support. The movement was carried out by Korean-American student Sarah Kim, who asked other students to collaborate with her on the project. With Korea still reeling in shock over the tragic accident, Kim and her school took part in the global movement to send condolences. The students hope the passengers realize they're all thinking of them and that they will forever remain in their hearts. Sun Jung-in, Arirang News.
We turn now on to another latest investigation into a crash involving Seoul's busiest subway line that happened on Friday afternoon. Investigators are now targeting a malfunction in the automatic distance control system as the possible cause of the accident, according to Seoul Metro CEO Jang Jung-woo. Normally, the signals stop and caution are given to approaching trains. But at the time of the accident, the signal given were stop and go ahead. The signal system had been malfunctioning for more than 4 days, and the problem was only discovered after the accident. The collision happened on line number 2 at Sangwangsimni station when one train ran into another that had stopped at the station. More than 240 passengers were injured, but fortunately, no fatalities have been reported. And on the political front, Korea is gearing up for local elections on June 4th, and this week the ruling and main opposition parties will confirm the remaining candidates for the 17 mayoral and provincial governor seats up for grabs. So far, the ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy have finalized candidates for 11 of 17 cities and provinces. The southern port city of Busan, the nation's second largest city, is drawing the most attention as the former fisheries minister, independent Oh Ga-don, will be running against candidates from both major parties. Next Saturday, the ruling party will confirm candidates for 3 metropolitan areas, including Seoul, while the main opposition party will finalize its candidates for the southern part of the nation. Well, not everyone's a winner when more free trade deals are signed. More and more Korean companies whose businesses have been adversely affected by free trade agreements are asking for government assistance. A new report by the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy shows that 52 companies have signed up for government support since the introduction of trade adjustment assistance in 2007. The number has spiked noticeably in recent years. Just 3 companies asked for help in 2008, 13 in 2012, and then it jumped to 31 companies in 2013. The report found 39 companies were deemed to have been adversely affected by inked trade deals, and the amount of government assistance provided was around $9.3 million. To better assist these businesses, the Korean government is looking for ways to lower interest rates and simplify the process of filing for trade adjustment assistance. Relations between North Korea and Russia seem to be improving. Thus, while relations between North Korea and its closest ally, China, seem to have hit a low point. Our Connie Kim explains.
Amid heightened tensions between North Korea and its closest ally, China, ties between North Korea and Russia appear to be improving. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Yuri Trutnev and North Korea's Foreign Trade Ministry struck an agreement on trade and economic cooperation last week during a 3-day visit to Pyongyang by the Russian diplomat.
During the meeting, North Korea and Russia exchanged views on how the two countries could strengthen economic cooperation.
Moscow also gave the isolated nation an unspecified number of fire engines, calling it a warm gesture. The Russian parliament agreed to write off almost $10 billion of the debt North Korea has owed to Moscow since the Cold War era. Experts say the two countries could benefit from new projects in the north, with the secluded state potentially using the money to invest in a proposed Russian gas pipeline and railway into the south, and Russia expanding its influence to Asia. At the same time, relations between North Korea and China appear to have hit a low point. Trade between two countries dropped by more than 2% to about $1.2 billion in the first quarter of this year. China had zero crude oil exports to the isolated nation in the period from January to March, a significant drop from the $170 million in the same period last year. And Beijing lashed out at Pyongyang last month, warning the isolated nation to refrain from pursuing its nuclear ambition.
It seems like North Korea is diversifying its strategy for economic development by moving away from an overdependence on China and toward great cooperation with Russia, which also puts pressure on its neighbor.
However, as Beijing takes up almost 90% of Pyongyang's foreign trade, the success of North Korea's new strategy remains to be seen. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
More than 4,000 displaced people are urgently in need of assistance after a devastating double landslide hit a remote village in northeast Afghanistan on Friday. More than 2,700 are presumed dead or missing in the impoverished province bordering Tajikistan. The United Nations says the remaining families have lost everything and are in desperate need of assistance. The Afghan military had flown rescue teams to the area after the disaster, but the government did not ask for their help, indicating the Afghan officials had confirmed that they wouldn't find any survivors. Villagers and a few dozen police equipped with only basic digging tools did resume their search for survivors, but it soon became clear to even them that there was no hope. Now, Seoulites are advised to wear masks this evening and Monday as there's a mild amount of yellow dust in the forecast. In Jindo, the site of the Sewol-ho ferry search and recovery operations, rain and stronger currents are unfortunately expected. And now it's time to take a look at the weather conditions in other parts of our world. That's all for now. We'll have more news at 10 p.m. Korea time, so do join us then. Thank you for watching.